Hello, fellow seeker. Welcome to the WordScaper, your quiet corner for gentle reflections, a sanctuary where we can pause and truly listen. Today we journey into one of life's most challenging yet potentially most transformative experiences, the act of starting all over again. What if this moment, often perceived as a setback, a loss, or even a failure, is in its deepest essence not a retreat, but a profound spiritual leap? The very phrase starting over often carries a heavy weight in our collective consciousness. It conjures images of dashed hopes, lost efforts, and the painful dismantling of what once was. It speaks of beginnings stripped bare, of walking away from familiar comfort zones into the stark unknown. Whether it's the end of a relationship, a career change, a move to a new city, a health crisis that reshapes our priorities, the thought of dismantling our carefully constructed lives and beginning anew can trigger deep-seated fears. Fear of failure, fear of the unknown, fear of judgment, and perhaps most acutely, fear that all our past efforts were somehow wasted. We cling fiercely to the familiar, to the structures and identities we've built around ourselves. Our egos find security in consistency, in the narrative of linear progression. We tell ourselves stories of where we've come from and where we're going, meticulously charting our course. To deviate, to abandon a path, to admit that something has run its course, feels akin to admitting defeat, to giving up. Society often reinforces this, celebrating persistence, endurance, and unwavering commitment, sometimes at the expense of necessary evolution. There's a subtle shame woven into the idea of starting over, as if it implies a lack of foresight, a deficiency in planning, or an inability to make it work. This societal pressure can make the idea of a fresh start feel less like an opportunity and more like a punishment, an unavoidable regression. Yet this clinging to permanence is perhaps one of humanity's most persistent illusions. Life, in its fundamental nature, is a continuous flow, an ever-changing river. Nothing truly remains static. Relationships evolve, careers shift, bodies age, circumstances change. The very cells in our bodies are constantly dying and being reborn, creating a new you every few years. The sun rises and sets, seasons turn, tides ebb and flow. To resist this inherent impermanence is to struggle against the very fabric of existence. As Buddhist philosophy profoundly teaches, suffering often arises from our attachment to impermanent things, to our desire for things to remain as they are, or as we wish them to be. When we cling to a past state, a past identity, or a past outcome, we create internal friction against the natural current of life. Starting over, in this light, is not a failure of persistence, but a courageous act of aligning ourselves with the flow of life rather than resisting it. It is an act of spiritual honesty, admitting that what once served us no longer does. The call to begin anew, then, is often not a punishment, but a divine or inherent invitation. It is life itself, in its infinite wisdom, gently nudging us, or sometimes forcefully propelling us, towards greater authenticity, deeper purpose, and unexplored potential. This call can manifest as a subtle whisper of dissatisfaction, a persistent feeling of being misaligned, or a clear, undeniable external event that shatters our existing structures. When the universe, or our own inner wisdom, presents us with the opportunity to start over, it is often because the old mold has become too small, the old path too restrictive, or the old self too confined. It is a spiritual initiation. Let us begin to reframe what we perceive as loss when we start over. We fear losing our identity, our security, our history, our perceived status. But what if these are not losses, but rather opportunities for shedding, for liberation? When a snake sheds its skin, it doesn't grieve the old, constricted layer. It celebrates the freedom of the new, more expansive one. When a tree sheds its leaves in autumn, it's not dying, but preparing for a new season of growth. Similarly, when we lose a job, a relationship, or an old way of being, we are often being given the sacred gift of shedding what no longer serves our highest good. We shed limiting beliefs, unhealthy patterns, and identities that were never truly ours to begin with. This shedding is an act of self-love, creating space for something new, more authentic, and more expansive. Think of the timeless metaphor of the phoenix. This mythical bird, when its life cycle is complete, builds a nest of aromatic wood, ignites it, and is consumed by the flames. But from the ashes, a new, young phoenix emerges, reborn and invigorated. Starting over is precisely this kind of fiery transformation. It demands that we willingly enter the flames of uncertainty, that we allow ourselves to be consumed by the unknown, to let go of the old form, trusting that from the embers of what was, something stronger, more beautiful, and more aligned will rise. It is the spiritual alchemy of turning perceived devastation into fertile ground for rebirth. This process isn't easy. It requires immense courage, a willingness to be vulnerable. Have you ever stood in a space where everything you once knew had disappeared, and all that remained was the sound of your own breath? That's not emptiness. That's the beginning of something sacred. This brings us to the wisdom of Zen Buddhism and the concept of Shoshin, the beginner's mind. When we are forced to start over, whether in a new career, a new skill, or a new phase of life, we are inherently thrown into the mindset of a beginner. We don't have the answers. We don't have the experience. We are open, eager, and free from the preconceptions and biases that come with expertise. The beginner's mind is a mind of curiosity, humility, and endless possibility. It is devoid of the rigid expectations and the knowingness that often prevent us from truly seeing and learning. When we have to start over, life gifts us the beginner's mind, forcing us to shed the heavy cloak of assumed expertise and step into a space of pure learning and discovery. This is a radical spiritual leap, as it dismantles the ego's attachment to achievement and status, and reconnects us with the fundamental human capacity for open inquiry and fresh perspective. In this state of genuine beginner's mind, every moment becomes an opportunity for discovery, every challenge a lesson, and every small step a triumph. The courage required for this first step, the decision to truly begin anew, is immense. It's the moment we acknowledge that something has ended and bravely choose to step into the void. It's a leap of faith, not into a predefined certainty, but into an open-ended potential. This courage is not born from a lack of fear, but from a commitment to our own growth, to our own authenticity, and to the quiet whisper of our soul guiding us forward. It is in this courageous act that we reclaim our agency, not by controlling the outcome, but by consciously choosing our path despite the uncertainty. Starting over, therefore, becomes a powerful catalyst for spiritual growth through disruption. Life's greatest lessons are rarely learned in comfort zones. It is often in moments of disruption, when our plans unravel, when our foundations shake, when what we thought was stable crumbles, that we are forced inward. We are compelled to look beyond external structures for security and to rely instead on our innate resilience, our inner wisdom, and our spiritual core. This process strengthens our inner muscles, cultivates a deeper connection to ourselves, and reveals capabilities we never knew we possessed. We learn that we are far more adaptable, far more capable of navigating uncertainty than we ever imagined. The disruption strips away superficial layers, revealing the unshakable essence of who we are. This process also presents the profound gift of re-evaluation. When we are forced to start over, we are given a rare opportunity to pause and reflect, free from the inertia of the old path. We can ask ourselves questions that often get buried under the busyness of life. What truly matters to me now? What are my deepest values? What kind of life do I genuinely desire to build, unburdened by past expectations or societal pressures? What is my authentic purpose, my dharma, calling me towards? This allows us to realign with our true selves, our deepest desires, and our spiritual compass, unburdened by the momentum of past choices that may no longer serve us. The wisdom of the Bhagavad Gita further illuminates this concept of cyclical existence and continuous renewal. In the Gita, the nature of reality is described as a ceaseless cycle of creation, preservation, and dissolution. Nothing truly dies, it merely transforms. The soul, or Atman, is eternal and indestructible, merely shedding old bodies, or forms, or lives, to take on new ones. Starting over, in this Vedic context, is not a personal failing, but a natural and necessary part of the soul's journey, an opportunity for further evolution and self-realization. It is a reminder that our true essence is not tied to any external achievement or identity, but to the eternal, unchanging spirit within. Every ending is thus a new beginning, embedded in the grand cosmic dance of creation and dissolution, a continuous journey of becoming. So, how do we practically embody this understanding of starting over as a spiritual leap? It begins with small, courageous steps. It starts with acknowledging the pain or discomfort of the ending, allowing ourselves to grieve, but then gently turning our gaze towards the new potential. Embrace self-compassion. Be kind to yourself. Starting over is hard. It requires immense strength. Acknowledge your vulnerability and offer yourself the same patience and understanding you would offer a dear friend or a loved one. Cultivate presence. Resist the urge to rush into the next thing or to endlessly analyze the past. Anchor yourself in the present moment. What is yours to do or simply to be right now? This is where clarity emerges. Define your intention. Before you leap, take time to reflect on what truly matters. What values do you want this new beginning to embody? What lessons have you learned from the past? Let this inner wisdom guide your first steps. Trust the unfolding. Release the need to control every outcome. Plant your seeds, tend to them with care, and then trust in the inherent wisdom of life's unfolding. Your power lies in your effort and intention, not in your ability to dictate every result. This journey of starting all over again is not a punishment for past missteps. It is a profound spiritual gift. It is an act of shedding, of purification, of rebirth. It is an opportunity to cultivate a beginner's mind, to deepen your trust in the universe, and to realign with the deepest, most authentic parts of yourself. It is the courageous recognition that true growth often requires dismantling the old to build something new, more resonant, and more truly aligned with your soul's purpose. Starting all over again isn't a retreat. It's the universe inviting you to dance anew, a sacred opportunity to shed what no longer serves and step more fully into the magnificent, unwritten choreography of your truest self. This understanding transforms endings from points of sorrow into thresholds of immense potential. It reminds us that our resilience is not in clinging, but in letting go and beginning again with wisdom and courage. It is in these courageous new beginnings that we truly discover our spiritual depth. Thank you for joining me on this reflection here at the WordScaper. May your journey be filled with graceful steps, profound courage, and the liberating peace that comes from embracing every new beginning. Until our next quiet conversation, keep listening, keep growing, and keep taking those magnificent leaps.